Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us here at the Knowledge and Learning Commons. Wish you a very happy new year, and it's great to be back with you. My name is Namondeep Jain, and I will be your host and moderator for today. Now, the Commons here is a space dedicated to informal learning and knowledge sharing on the issues of professional development and multilateralism. And so today's event is to do, doing, done, making the most of Kanban boards in collaboration with InsightPact and New Work. And do not worry, because at the end of the event, we'll share links to a resource guide, to a few resources from our speakers, and the UN Library and Archives. And before we go forward, I would want to tell you a small housekeeping checklist. Today's platform is WebEx events, and closed captions are available. By selecting the CC button at the bottom left of your screen, you can change the closed captions into the language of your preference. If you need any technical assistance, you can submit a question in the chat box and our team will do their best to assist you. Now, this is an interactive session, as you have already witnessed. So we encourage you to ask questions throughout the session by raising your hand, which is located in the bar at the options in menu of your screen at the bottom. And you can also post your questions in the chat box. So now let's go to our event. Let me introduce you to our wonderful speakers today. Daniela Viz, who is a change manager at New Work. We also have here with us Malta Yanosova, performance manager at UN Office Geneva. And our third speaker is Irene Laochaisri, who has worked extensively with UN teams worldwide to equip them with agility resources and mindset. She will walk you through how you can use Kanban to support your team's work. A warm welcome to all of our speakers, and thank you for joining us today. And now, without further ado, I hand over the session to our first speaker, Daniela. Over to you, Daniela.
Thank you so much, Namon. And again, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everyone. We're really excited that so many of you joined from so many different places. This is an excellent opportunity to really learn more about how to use the fantastic tool of Kanban, but also how to understand how we're starting to roll out agile in the UN. And this is, before we start, actually, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of New Work, because this session is organized in collaboration with others, also by our global New Work team. You might have heard of New Work already, but what is New Work? It always comes out New Work sometimes, that's normal. So New Work and not New York, but it's also a core group in New York that's doing New Work. So it's a tongue breaker. So it is a staff initiative. It started at the beginning of 2018, actually here in Geneva, where I'm based, and now it's global with hubs in Bangkok, New York, and Geneva, and hopefully soon also one in Entebbe in the field. So it's a staff initiative, not a management initiative. And what we're trying to do here with New Work is to create an organizational culture and also to promote behaviors and processes that ultimately allow us to have a more fulfilling and productive workplace. So it's really a vision for the culture that we want to have in the UN. And we also link it, of course, to activities that help us achieve this vision. And since it's a staff initiative, what's interesting here is that it's also powered by a network of staff across the global organization. And New Work is what you see here on the little graphic. It basically covers 5 broad areas that we've identified together with a lot of colleagues that we think are important to shape our culture. And those are innovation and risk-taking, because here we're trying to make sure that in our organization, as many people as possible have the opportunity to be innovative in their day-to-day work and in other areas. So to make it mainstream. Also, we have Fit for the Future, where we are trying to provide continuous learning opportunities for all the colleagues, all the personnel, to make sure that we all remain relevant with the skill set that's more and more important today. For example, today's event is an example of that, Fit for the Future, providing learning opportunities. And then there's working flexibly. And since 2018, we've been really promoting the more flexible working remotely policy, which has helped us greatly during the COVID and where we are still today, mostly telecommuting. And then there's collaborative environment, where we really want to address the silos that exist in the organization to give people opportunities to work across silos, to collaborate more closely within teams, but also across. And finally, there's empowered networks. And that's the area where we've really been trying to promote the agile methodology to make sure staff feel more empowered in their work. And that's the focus of today's session, the Kanban boards, because it falls in the agile, and so it falls into the empowered networks. Next slide, please. And now the question is, why is it so urgent now that the UN tries to be more agile? Well, that's because of COVID. COVID has really increased the rapid change transformation pace. And in order to be able to keep up with this, it's really important that we look at the agile methodology, because it has been shown during the experience with COVID that those organizations that have been agile fared much better dealing with the ever increasing pace of change. And also, and there is one point here, that younger generations in our organization, they will tell you, they are telling us that the culture has to change for them to be continuously interested in staying with the UN. We have to change our culture. And that's why we are also trying to really promote the New Work Agenda, which is a culture change program. And then also why agile is important. More and more, we are all demanding more flexibility and more freedom to determine the way we work. And that is something that is also supported by the agile methodology. And finally, of course, we all know this, while our mandates are always increasing, our budgets are shrinking. So also this means if we try to look at different ways to adopt an agile methodology, we will be able to, make more of the, of the budgets and the personnel, the human resources that the organization has. And with this, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Malta.
Thank you, Daniela. So actually, if you Google Agile on the internet, then you're very likely to find diagrams like that, how things were, how things are, and how things should be. So organizations which conduct Agile transformations move away gradually from a strict hierarchical structure and they organize in a different way. They organize themselves as a network of interdependent and interconnected teams working together with the same shared vision and purpose. Eventually, the objective of such transformations is to work smarter rather than harder and to generate more value with less work. Next slide, please. But can we actually have a fully fledged agile transformation like this one, like private sector organizations do? And the answer is likely that we can't. Next slide, please. At our level as staff, we don't have a mandate to change the organizational structure. So we were thinking and decided to choose an angle to that, starting from where we can actually make the difference. So we decided to focus on teams and make Agile, first and foremost, a tool for team performance. We're trying to move away from also when, for example, private sector organizations do Agile transformations, this is often imposed from the top. So we didn't want to have, we couldn't, and we didn't want to have a similar approach. So last year in 2020, we actually conducted a pilot. We tested the agile ways of working on ourselves. We had a pilot with 4 different teams from different locations. And Irene from InsightPact was one of the trainers who introduced us to modern agile. So what we did with that, we also adapted this to our context. We create a common language around agile that is understandable within the UN. And now we are also offering some training courses to scale it to interested teams. But what does it have to do with Kanban? Well, Kanban is one of the tools used by agile teams, but also by all sorts of other teams. And it can be a very powerful tool for harnessing team collaboration. So we really wanted to have this project where we explore more about the tool together with Irene. And she's going to now talk to you about this. Over to you, Irene.
A lot, Daniela and Malta. I don't think that I could have asked for a better setting up process for what I'm about to share next. So that's always a wonderful feeling. So thanks for the opportunity to be here, and thank all 164, now 65 of you for being here. What an opportunity. So let me introduce myself briefly before I bring my slides up. So once again, my name is Irene Laochaisri, as Namon correctly pronounced. Thank you once again. I run a company called InsightPact, and we exist to support organizations that are working in social impact and development to really unleash the power of their teams to work together in a way that is agile, in a way that puts well-being first, in a way that supports the people in the organization to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. And we work mainly with organizations that are global first, serving global stakeholders. So we also practice everything that I'm about to share with you today internally within our organization. That doesn't mean that we know everything that there is to know about Agile and the tools within Agile, but the things that I'm about to share with you do come from that context and that experience. So let me go ahead and bring my slides up. I would love a nod from you, Malta, if you can see my slides properly. Thumbs up, just to make sure. Great, wonderful.
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for confirming that. So I really, before I go to the objectives, want this session to be a conversation between all of us. So what you're going to see me do is I might be asking you to inviting you to come in and speak directly to some of the questions and points that are coming up. I know that there's 170 of us, but I'd like, to the best extent possible, for this to really be a session where you're not just sitting here listening to me talk, but we get to really have a conversation about Kanban boards as a tool, but also project management and task management for you right now and what those two things look like. So please expect that. If I invite you to come on and share your experience and you'd rather not, you're more than welcome to politely decline. I promise that I would not be offended. So let's go over the objectives for today once again. The 3 priorities that we have today is for you to get to know Kanban boards as a task management process, and beyond that, beyond the tool itself, I'd like for you to develop a deeper understanding of the ways of working around Kanban boards, so how to actually use it, and the communication and collaboration pieces within the use of Kanban boards that really bring out the most of what they have to offer. And then I'd like for you to take some time at the end to think about how you can integrate Kanban boards and these particular ways of working into your day-to-day so that you leave today with a clear action that you can take and try out. So that is my intention. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I'd like to start with is to ask you, what do task and project management look like for you at the present moment? What do you think works well, and what do you think was different? Ava, you're the first person on my list with your camera turned on. If you feel up for it, would you like to come on in and share an answer to this question? Or is anybody else willing to volunteer? Let's see. Greta, I see that your camera's on as well. What would you like to come in and share your thoughts on this question? Hope that I'm audible at the moment. Danielle, would you mind confirming?
I can talk. This is Shalini Agarwal.
Ah, great. Shalini, thanks a lot for coming in. So give us a bit of context, Shalini. Where are you located, and which agency are you working with?
I am in UNHQ, located in New York, and I'm in OICT, and I do a lot of project management. So typically using Microsoft Project and things like that. So what works well? I guess definitely a lot of the features in terms of just planning out the tasks with the resource allocation and the timelines and sequential tasks, etc. Those the typical things that work well in Microsoft Project. But what I do wish can be done differently is getting notification on a daily basis. Maybe not notification, maybe that's not the right word, but having a dashboard or a snapshot of where we are slipping on so if I at any point I go in and I see, instead of scrolling through a 500 line document or something, it would be great to have a dashboard where you know, okay, this is what you're supposed to have done by today, and this is what's not happening. So that would
I
be
see. So
something. Just having a dashboard for project management where you can get essentially, I guess that's the only way to say it, is to get a snapshot of the status. I mean, I've done scorecards, and but a lot of the stuff seems effort intensive in terms of even managing the scorecard, right? So
yeah.
versus having a lot more visual representation of where you are at any given time.
Yeah. Yes. Visual representation. I hear that. And you're absolutely right to identify that the work of project management is a separate work stream within itself, just to get organized and to communicate to everyone what needs to be done, and to do all of that in a clean and concise way. I'm hearing from a lot of people in the chat as well, so I'd like to share this with you. A person by the acronym AM, that may be an acronym or a name, I apologize for not being sure on that. You can correct me in the chat. Shares that a bullet journal works well. This is a personal process rather than a team one. For Marie Jo, it seems like what you'd like to be different is for there to be more transparency for all stakeholders on where we are and what we are working on as a priorities. Sar Boganem, please correct my pronunciation if it's wrong. A way of listing activities and tasks and their priorities and sequence for implementation. So needing a way of organizing things that is clear and that allows a team to prioritize. Thank you, Zar, for the thumbs up. I think that means that I pronounced your name close to correctly. So there's a lot of messages in the chat here, and I invite you to look through this as you go through them.
Irene, can I jump in?
It's sure. Who's speaking at the moment?
Paula.
Sure, please. What would you like to share, Paula?
Just to give you another corner. So maybe during the presentation you cover this one too. So I work in New York headquarters in capacity development and operational training. So I develop online learning, which are all project by itself. We work on Kanban actually, on Jira, which is not, you know, it's a tough tool to use because the visualization is relatively low, but we couldn't get anything else. I run many projects simultaneously. So we build training, we new training simultaneously, and we work in network and in flexible team. So one person is a lead in one team, is a subject matter expert in another team, and it's instructional development in a third team, and so on. So people keep shifting. And what I found that doesn't work for me in my team is the resistance to what can I say? The view of the project management and the use of tools as an overhead. So the team do it because they know that otherwise I cannot report, for instance. So I end up in the middle of the night that I have to report, and where is it? Where are we? Where are things? Because so many things go on simultaneously. But there is that culture of, oh my God, I have to enter all my tasks now, and I have to move them from to do to in progress to done. And so this is done, you know, at the end of the month when I start pushing for report and people start moving the cards. So how to move the culture to where this is not a burden, but it's actually a plus, as it is for me. But, you know, they look at me like, of course, you are the manager. It's a plus for you, but not for me.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying completely. And I don't think that I will be able to give you a satisfying solution to that problem today, given that we have an hour and 5 minutes left. But we will touch upon those cultural pieces a little bit. And then I'd like for you to let me know by the end if you've earned something useful from those thoughts by the end. So thanks for sharing that perspective, Paula. It's really helpful to hear what task and project management looks like for you right now. So thanks to all of you for sharing. Paula mentioned that Paula already uses Kanban boards, but many of you may not know what we're even talking about when we're using the word Kanban boards yet at the moment. So Let me just make that very, very clear for all of you. Kanban boards look a little bit like this. They are a way for organizing tasks that enable a team to see what tasks are currently pending under to do, what tasks are currently being done under doing, and what tasks have already been completed under done. Now, you might be wondering if this is all the tool is, why are we spending 90 minutes to talk about it? You know, it seems relatively straightforward. You're planning to get something done, you put your tasks into to do, and then the teams, you know, take their time moving their tasks from one location to another. But there's a little bit more to the process of using Kanban boards than that. So let's get into these cultural pieces a little bit. The conversation that I'd like to start with you today is that Kanban boards as a way for managing tasks and therefore contribute to project management as a whole, they aren't just a tool. They, when used in a way that optimizes the value that they can bring, really reflect an attitude towards project management that prioritizes 4 things: frequent open communication, asking for help, breaking down tasks into the smallest possible unit of measurement, and the willingness to reflect on team health and get feedback frequently. Let me take some proper time to go through each of these portions bit by bit and walk you through how they connect to Kanban boards as a tool specifically, and then I will actually walk you through how to use it through a demonstration. Before we get to that point, you might be wondering what kinds of platforms within the online and hybrid environment would actually be useful, helpful to set up a Kanban board with. This list is not complete. If you happen to be sitting in person with your entire team every single day, if that's your reality right now, it could also just be a whiteboard, but these are the type of tools that you could potentially access to build a Kanban board on, just so that you are aware. I am actually going to skip over this slide because I think that I want to highlight the cultural pieces a little bit more. So let's jump into this part directly. So why does frequent open communication help us to unlock the power of what Kanban boards have to offer? And I see a question here from Miriam. When you say whiteboard, can it work on a Teams whiteboard? Yes, absolutely. And it could also work on a physical whiteboard as well if a team is actually sitting physically together in person. Back to frequent open communication. So why is this particular combination important? When you think back to the Kanban board itself, you might notice that there's only 3 columns, but the pace at which tasks move through the 3 sections, to do, doing, and done, can be very fast one day, very slow on another. And in order for everybody to have visibility, so Paula is talking about, was talking just now about wanting to know about what each person is working on. There was a mention in the chat about having transparency over where things are at. Having frequent open communication together with the use of Kanban boards allows a team to have many opportunities to revisit the task at hand, evaluate how relevant they actually are for the project, and adjust the tasks and the timelines of those tasks as needed. And what this can look like in practice is a weekly, bi-weekly, maybe for some teams even daily, depending on what project you're working on and how fast-paced you need to be moving, where the team actually is having the conversation around the Kanban boards, moving tasks around, changing the task that needs to be done, changing who owns them, creating more tasks within one when you realize that one task is actually made up of more. Having many opportunities to check in and have these conversations is really, really key. I'm going to pause there for a moment to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So maybe, Miriam, if that's okay with you, Miriam Gartenberg, what are your thoughts on this connection? Are these thoughts resonating with you at all? Does it feel like something that you would want to practice in your own team, or that maybe you already practice today? Would love to hear from you, Miriam.
To be honest, we use a completely different system. I'm in the editing service, in the languages department, documents division, and we have something called GDoc that we use to manage, I guess, tasks, jobs across all the language services, from, initial assignment to, it goes through editing, and then sometimes it goes like at the same time to the translator. Sometimes they go linearly. I'm actually looking to see if I can use this in, say, team building activities, more of a social use than an actual like work team use, because we have our own tools for processes and stuff. So we don't really want to add new tools, but we're already using
Yes.
Team. So that's why I'm just thinking, like, if we're doing something, I had never heard of Kanban boards. Somebody suggested that they can be, useful for, activities and events and things like that. So I'm just totally, curiosity is my purpose for being here, and to see how it can be incorporated into the existing tools that we have, like Teams.
Yeah, it's really coming up as a pattern. I believe Hanuel in the chat is also hinting at this, this process of making sure that those who are using the task management tools feel fully bought in to the importance of doing and justify internally to themselves as well as to each other the return of the investment of putting the work to have frequent open communication around this management to be important. So I'm noticing that theme coming up. Miriam, thanks a lot for sharing. The next point here that I'd like to make is around the importance of asking for help and the willingness to reflect on team health and getting feedback frequently as something that needs to be practiced together with the use of Kanban boards. The reason for this is that at the end of the day, task management comes down to a team being willing and able to accurately estimate how much capacity they have to complete a certain piece of work. And for example, if I needed to write a report, the more accurately I can communicate to my team and to the more accurately I can estimate how much time that report is going to take me, the more I can self-manage my schedule better, and the better I can communicate to my team, whose work may depend on my report, whose work may depend on my report, how long that report is going to take. And the more I'm able to gauge this capacity, my personal capacity, the more I can be aware about when I might actually need some help to get my task done. So the point that I'm trying to make is this particular combination is really important to ensure that there's always alignment between the tasks that a person and a team has signed up for and the capacity that that individual person and the entire team has to actually get those tasks done. So that if there is a misalignment, everybody has an opportunity to either make capacity available, so bringing on other team members, deprioritizing certain projects so that focus can be spent on more urgent and timely ones, or to adjust deadlines as needed. And in practice, what could this look like? So what I would suggest is you most likely already have a weekly meeting where you are discussing the work that you've done so far and the work that you need to do ahead. Something that you could consider doing is to add a specific meeting agenda to this meeting while you are discussing, as part of discussing the tasks that you need to get done together, to add a specific agenda item on asking team members to reflect on their capacity, as well as how the team is working together. For a particular week, for the report that I'm responsible for, it's possible that I may not be as productive as I would be in normal times if I, for example, contract COVID, if I have a stressful family situation going on. So task management with Kanban boards cannot be successful if team members do not have space to ask for help and to reflect on their own personal capacity, reflect on their team health, and get feedback from each other. I threw a lot of things at you. Maybe I'd like to give you a chance to come in and maybe respond to some of these thoughts as well. I'll keep it open first. Is there anybody who wants to come in and express either resonance with what I've just mentioned, or even disagreement? I would totally welcome any disagreement if any exist. I'll leave the floor open first, and if not, I might invite someone to come in. Okay, maybe I'd actually like to invite you, Hanuel Nadukta. Please correct me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Are the things on this slide resonating with you at all? Maybe there are things that do and things that do not. Would love to hear from you, Hanuel.
Yes, I think I like to reflect on team health. Yeah, I this does resonate with me. I think the ground has to be fertile enough, and that means having people who are willing to incorporate this into their team working style. And just following up on my comment, I think, whoever's introducing it, most likely the manager. I think the first weakness that I see is in that change management aspect of convincing a team of why they should do this. It could easily, and I think in this environment, it easily turns into a culpability or accountability exercise, oversight.
Yeah,
And now they think this is just another exercise to blame someone. And I think if the managers had that skill to be persuasive and say, we're at a certain point in our team's development where this would help us, and this is how it will influence our work in a positive way, and this is another way for you to ask for help, an easier way. I think that could make that transition easier. But from my experience of how teams work in our environments, not mine is kind of the opposite of that, but from what I've seen of other areas, they may not be ready, and then they just throw here's another thing we're going to try, it's a new thing, and they're not suited for it.
Yeah, gosh, so much to say about that. That was so insightful, Hanuel. Am I saying your name correctly, Hanuel? Is that
Januel?
Januel. I'm so sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
No worries.
Januel. Okay. Yeah. So what have you found to work well in your team? In my understanding from what you said just now is that your team has found a way to introduce task and project management tools at a pace where your team has been able to adopt them in a valuable and meaningful way. And that maybe your team has also fostered a culture that is ripe for asking for help. Am I understanding you correctly, Januel?
Yeah, I think you've stated that correctly. The exercise we're going through now, which has been most helpful for us, is clarifying our goals as a team, what our understanding of what our contribution to the work will be, and that's everything is on the table, and it's a free discussion, and it's really enjoyable because you can get philosophical about things. You can state the assumptions of why we think one thing we do is going to lead to something else. And it's in that discussion of the dynamics of our work that we're coming up with common goals and ways to get there. And I think, it's that reasoning, it's working those things out first, and then being able to plot it with a tool like Kanban tools. That kind of um, line of thinking, I think, has really energized what we're doing. And then the things that you're talking about are supplements to that.
What's beautiful about this is, Danielle, you've basically made my point for me for this entire session, which is that Kanban boards are often introduced as an approach to task and project management without really talking about psychological safety or the readiness of the team to actually adopt a new process. And so that's why I really wanted this session to be about, yes, here's the tool, and I'm going to show you how to use it in a bit, but also these are the conditions that need to be there for the tool to actually bear fruit. And what's really powerful is that so many people in the chat are expressing similar thoughts. I'm seeing messages about how asking for help is always well seen in some teams, the need to create a safe space to raise the flag if things don't work, if people need extra help, the importance of psychological safety. And the risk that if that psychological safety is not there, or if there isn't that trust that, or that understanding that people's capacity can be different, that a tool like Kanban board might show that some team members are working and producing at 3 times the speed. So it's all coming back to the same core point. And thanks a lot, General, for helping to bring that to light. And I want to stay here for a bit longer and maybe hear from others as well. M or AM, whichever is the most appropriate way to refer to you. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Your message here in the chat about there's a risk that it will show some team members are working and producing at 3 times the speed of others. Could you talk a little bit more about what that has looked like for you, and maybe things that you have tried to make sure that this wasn't the case? Would you be willing to speak to that?
Irene, sorry, there's a comment in the chat from her or him saying that they can't use the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't scroll down just yet, so thank you for coming in. Really appreciate that. Maybe then, Marie Jo, you were the one who shared with us that asking for help isn't necessarily always well seen in some teams. Would you be willing to speak a little bit more about how you have tried to make asking for help possible for the members of your team?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you. You hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I find that I don't find that asking for help is necessarily rewarded as a prevention measure. And it's much easier to get some help when you're on the verge of a catastrophe or not meeting your deadline. Then of course you get some help. But as a preventive measure, it's not always easy, and I find that even within the team, there is a lot of I don't know if sometimes people keep a tracking sheet of who I helped, so who I can ask help to. But it really depends on the teams. I can only talk for myself, but I find it very unfortunate that it's so hard to just ask for help.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the culture where I am, that has to change or evolve. Yeah, thank you.
And you know what unfortunately also makes it harder is that not all of us are equally willing to ask for help in the first place because of who we are and our background. So today we're talking about a tool with an agile methodology and the conditions that need to be present for that tool to be helpful. But it really comes down to us individually as people also being willing to do the self-reflection that we need to do to ask ourselves, am I in a position, am I equipped to reflect on my health and to help my team reflect on their health? Am I equipped to ask for help before it becomes too critical? So these are the sorts of things that, you know, we need days, months, years to discuss, not just in 90 minutes, but we're really getting to the heart here of what agile methodology invites us to really think about. It's not about moving post-its across the wall. That's not the point.
Like they say about the agile manifesto, it's a mindset that needs to be changed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for sharing, Marija. I'm going to move us forward now to the last critical condition that needs to be present in order for Kanban boards to be used effectively, which is that it's important for whatever task we place onto the board themselves, the tasks that we place onto the boards themselves to be as broken down to the smallest possible unit of measurement. And this particular condition is important because by doing so, we, as a team, increase our ability to gauge precisely how much work there is to be done. Writing a report isn't just one task. Writing a report, it's coming up with an outline. It's getting feedback on that outline with key stakeholders. It's writing a first draft of the first 40% that needs to be confirmed with those key stakeholders before they're shared with another group of key stakeholders. So the more granular we can get about what we're actually signing up for and the tasks that go into the work that we're trying to complete, the more we can have visibility over what it is that we're actually trying to do. And so what this looks like in practice is every time a team comes together around the Kanban board, usually on a weekly basis, to actually evaluate whether or not the tasks on the board, their location, and what's actually written down on them are accurate, the team can also use that opportunity to check that each task truly cannot be broken down into subtasks. Usually they can be, and during those meetings, that is where a team would have the opportunity to do so. I'm just going to pause here and check in with you in case there's anything that I'd like to hear from you and see if this is making sense, if it's resonating. Alyssa, goodbye. The recording is currently being, this session is currently being recorded. I know the slides will be shared later, but I cannot answer directly how the recording will be shared. So perhaps I'd like to ask the team from the library to answer that question. I'm sorry that I can't give clarity on that now.
Our team will provide assistance with that, don't worry.
All right, thank you, Namwan. Very helpful. Paula, I'm seeing that you're quite active in the chat as well. You wrote that you have a daily 30 minutes open meeting. Anyone is free to show up if they have anything to share, successes, concerns, or support. Every day you open the meeting maybe by saying, what can we do for you? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about this practice and perhaps share with us if you've had the opportunity to use these conversations as a way to break down tasks that people are working on into smaller units of measurement.
Yeah, in fact, that's where it comes from. At the beginning, when I moved to this job and I have all these concurrent projects, I felt really overwhelmed because people were jumping on me any time of the day. I didn't have time to work because everybody was there like, what do we do? What do we do? So I started to have, they call it the doctor office hour. So they joke, right? That every day at 2:30, I open my chat and my camera. And people can come, cannot come. If they don't come, it's perfectly fine. If I can be by myself 30 minutes, I would love it. But this is not the case. So people are free to come. I mean, team members. And the question is, what can we do for you? Which means not only me, but your colleagues that are here. What can we do for you? And that's the idea. The idea is like, I have doubts, I have a question, I feel overwhelmed, I cannot do this, the time is not right, or I cannot deliver on time. And we go through that process of breaking it in pieces, smaller chunks, because sometimes some of the smaller chunks can be assigned to somebody else. There is a piece of graphic design you're struggling with. the graphic designer said, me, I can do it for you. It takes me 5 minutes. I'm
Yep.
struggling with a piece that I can
Yep.
do in 5 minutes. And so on. This breaking down in pieces also help, first of all, to sequence, to give timing to those pieces, and so to maybe redesign or reassess the delivery time, but also from other team member to jump in and to take task and say, oh, I can do this and I can help you out. So it's a reciprocal, it's that moment where you come, team member come looking for, you know, sometimes just an advice, sometimes a nice word of someone that says, I went through it, that's what I did. Or sometimes it's really somebody that lending a hand, and so it can move in the right direction.
You know, what's interesting, Paula, is what you described just now touches upon all the 4 ways of working, right? So let me go, we're not there yet. Back to this slide. Frequent open communication, 30 minutes every single day, asking for help and getting feedback frequently. That gets into, it seems like you get to practice that also during the 30 minutes, and also breaking down tasks also gets practiced during those 30 minutes. So if you need a real life example of how to integrate these 4 ways of working, I think what Paula has described here is a pretty illustrative example. Paula, would you reflect on what your practice in a similar way?
Oh, yes. You know, there is one point that is very important for me. The team don't feel that I want them to report to me what they are doing, but they feel that I'm there for them. So that's the time where I'm there for them, or everybody is there for them. Everybody think, oh, this team is there for me. And that's what switch the paradigm from my manager is controlling me to my manager is servicing me. It's there to serve me, not to control me. And that's where I think all those things, they got together, they grouped together in that assumption, right? Of the way the agile project management, where the PMO, which is the manager, and whoever I'm lucky, I have a staff member that decided that he wants to be a PMO. He volunteered. He said, can I do the PMO for this team? Well, great. If you love it, go ahead.
Beautiful.
But that team, it's not there to control you. It's there to serve. And that when this shift is done, then everything comes automatically. Then you ask for help. Then you are open to say that these things are slipping, or the deadline is slipping, and you cannot reach it, and so you need extra support, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's such an illustrative example, and I see a few comments in the chat celebrating that example as well, Paula. So I think we all have so much to learn from you in how you realize that. At the same time, I can imagine that maybe not everybody on this call, that your reality is exactly the same as what's just been described. I see a message in the chat here from Yvette Gauthier that decomposing a deliverable to smaller tasks can be a problem when the lead wants to keep it at a higher level. I find this comment so interesting. Yvette, would you be willing to come on and share a little bit about why that's the case?
Sure.
And how to navigate that situation?
So I think, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. So I think that there's a somewhat misunderstanding into the best use of a Kanban board versus just keeping track of change requests. So when the Kanban board is really a list of change requests, and then within the change requests, you have, I don't know, 5 different reports that have to be changed because the field is being modified or added and things like that. It makes it super difficult to just move the piece on the Kanban board over to say, you know, this piece of the change request is complete. And because they want to keep it at a higher level because they just want to see that the change request is completed, then that use of JIRA, right, which we use to keep that layer of nuance is very difficult. So for me, I end up working in the change request and breaking down the change request and elaborating on what it is that they want, right? Because usually the change request is like, add field X to all the exports in blah, 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 whatever that is, right? And so then I end up having to return my comments within the change request. I'm like saying, this was done completed, this needs some work, da 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 da. And then the Kanban, you know, what do you call it? The unit, right? The element in the Kanban board stays in like pending for what I'm going to be exaggerating, obviously, 5,000 years. And then it finally moves to done in like a minute. So this is really difficult because I think people don't understand the nuance between the change report, the change request and the Kanban board elements. And to shift a whole team down that methodology is really difficult, really, really difficult.
Oh God, that's such an important point. And I'm really, really glad that you're bringing it up because it highlights the requirement for a team to agree together what is the smallest unit of measurement that's actually useful for this team, for the team to communicate within each other. If I'm writing a report, I don't need to put the task, create a new document on my computer, on the Kanban board for my team to see. Nobody's benefiting from that. So that level of granularity is too small for my team. So you've helped me make this point more accurately. So thanks a lot, Yvette, for that. Is that smallest unit of measurement needs to be determined, and maybe it's not going to be perfectly determined at the day one of a team starting to implement Kanban boards. It's probably going to be an iterative process of discussing with each other. Actually, like beyond this level of granularity, the team's not benefiting anymore. It's just slowing us down to have to talk through this. Is this kind of the point that you're trying, Yvette? Am I hearing you correctly?
That's correct, because I think when some of us come from not necessarily an agile methodology, right? We bring those, like what we're most comfortable with. It's not, saying one thing or another. It's just you have this idea. Yes, exactly, Paola. The reorganization of the board, right? From epic stories and subtasks. So that concept is it's a little bit harder to adopt, even though we're saying we're working in an agile methodology, right? So that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Yvette. That's incredibly helpful. And Paula, thanks for adding to that as well. Really happy to have so many experienced users of Kanban boards in the call today. It makes the conversation so much more rich. So thanks a lot for all of your contributions. I'd like to demo the use of Yeah, please, go ahead.
I would like, it would be great if maybe not everyone has the same concepts of epic stories and subtasks, so that we're all speaking the same language. It would be great if you can speak to that just for a minute.
You know what? Sorry, Yvette, in my experience of learning about and using Kanban boards, we don't use the term epics and stories. So actually, I think you have more to offer this group than I do in this moment, and maybe Paula as well. So please take the floor, come in. Would love to hear you share with the group and educate me in the process as well. Would you be willing to do that?
Maybe I can start if you want. So the way we organize it, we have something that is called teams, and the teams is a larger area, and the teams, it doesn't move. It's only a way to organize. For instance, HR training is a team. And then in the HR training, we have a course that we need to produce, and that's an epic. This epic move very slow. It may take 6 months to deliver the epic. So, and also it's psychological. If they, as Yvette said, if this epic is always at the same place, in progress for 6 months. So what we report upwards is always in progress for 6 months. Then, so this course is divided in, I'll give you my actual example. The course is divided in modules, and those are story, and the module are moved slowly too. But in the modules, now we go to the subtask, and the subtask are all the little tasks that you do, sometimes on daily basis, creating a video, creating an outline, giving the outline to the business for validation, incorporating the comment of the business. And so the task, they move fast. So we know, and I started I can report percentages. At that point, I can say, oh, 30% of my tasks are completed, 40% of my tasks are, but the epic stays still for a long time. And it's a way also for the team to see they are progressing, because it's everything I said at epic level. The team has the impression, the team and the management have the impression that nothing is moving, everything is still. But this is not the truth. These people are working hard and are working fast. So it's a way to represent how the team moves to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yvette, would love for you to add more color there if you're interested. I see you're raising your hand. Please come in.
Thank you. Yeah, so I agree, Paula. We sort of do the same, and I think that the utilization of the Kanban board to reflect that work is, I think, where some teams tend to misunderstand the nuance of the Kanban board versus what we can call epic and stories, right? Because for the change request to me is the epic, or it could be the story, depending on if there are many change requests that are related and grouped together. So the balance that you have, so that, and maybe Irene, you can speak to this, is if the Kanban board is supposed to be a series of broken down tasks, right? So a particular measurement that obviously makes sense, then it doesn't have to be a one-to-one relationship to the story, or in this case, the change request. And I think that is and if you disagree, then I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because to me, if I have to work on an element on a Kanban board, that it's really like 7 very clearly defined tasks, right? Then I would like to see those 7 tasks on the Kanban board, and then say that, yes, that is the grouping that is associated to the change request. And maybe in an agile methodology, you can say, I'm willing to go ahead and push the code for 5 out of the 7 right now, right? And that's okay, because that's, it's agile, right? That's the whole point of like saying we're going to deliver X amount of tasks on a whatever period you've defined as a team, be it 3 months, 6 months, 2 weeks, weekly, whatever it is, and say that that's how we're moving forward. And then as I think maybe, and this, I think we're sliding a little bit away from Kanban boards. So I don't want to go down that path too much, right?
Yeah.
That rabbit hole.
Lots of depth going on here.
Sorry. That the visualization possibly of the story within the Kanban board may be why people tend to use the Kanban board at a higher level. And maybe that is where, there's that, maybe that's where we need a little bit more work on, right? Okay, I'm done.
No, thank you so much for introducing this and for educating me also in the process. I think what would be so beneficial for this group is for you to either during the session or to my email, which I'll share at the end, share specific resources that you'd like to share with this group about epics and stories and how they can be integrated, or maybe later down the line as people start, after people start getting used to the process of using Kanban boards already. Those resources I think would be extremely valuable. Yvette, would you have any that you could you can think of that you'd be willing to send over?
Yeah, I should have some information. Paola, you and I can probably come up with something, I'm sure. We don't work in the same area, but we've known each other for a while.
Great. I'm not sure if Paula still, let me check if Paula is still with us. I think she needed to step out to another meeting, but that was really great. And I'm glad that yeah, cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that'd be really fantastic. So I'm going to exit my slide in presentation mode and switch over to editing mode. To the demo. We're going to do this for 5 minutes. just to really demonstrate to those of you who may be seeing a Kanban board for the first time, I know we have some real veterans in the room, but for those of you who are seeing a Kanban board in the first time, I'd like for you to get a sense of what it actually looks like in practice. So I would like some volunteers to come up and join me in being part of a team of 3 people who are about to plan a birthday party. So Yvette, since we've been chatting for a little bit, would you mind if I nominate your name first in the list?
Sure.
Would you
Go
be
ahead.
Would you be interested in that? Great. Thank you so much. And then I also see a significant number of colleagues in the chat who are really active. Ricardo Morales, would you be interested also to be one of our volunteers for this demonstration?
Sure, I will.
Great,
Hello?
thank you, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. That sounds great. And Daniela, I'm going to ask you to be our 3rd person. Would that be possible? Are you available to come in and help right now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Daniela. So we have 3 people who are now going to work together throughout 3 days to prepare for a birthday party. And each of you have 4 hours, my bad, across the 3 days to actually plan this birthday party. So that gives you a sense of your capacity. And let's just assume for the purposes of this demonstration that you don't have anything else to do other than maybe relax and hang out, but organize this birthday party. So let's just control that variable there. And each day at 9 a.m., all 3 of you get on a call to discuss the progress of the preparation process. So Yvette is person 1, you'll pay attention to the purple boxes. Ricardo is person 2, you'll pay attention to the pink boxes. And Daniela is person 3, who is going to pay attention to the yellow boxes. And we have a question in the chat of whether or not it is a face-to-face party. Maybe that's something that this group has to figure out together. So it's 9 a.m. on day 1. Yvette, Ricardo, and Daniela get on a call. And this is the Kanban board currently. There's some tasks there, a bunch of empty cards as well. And now Yvette is supposed to do everything. So I leave it to the 3 of you. What are the tasks that need to get done? I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so that you can see more clearly. Are these the right tasks that we need to put into place? Do we need to determine whether or not this is going to be a face-to-face party? So maybe we start with you, Yvette. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, let me just, can you go down a little bit? I can't see the bottom of the board. Oh, okay. Sorry,
This is
we're
everything
just an
right
empty
now.
box.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. So let me
what do you
add.
think?
Okay, let's define the date, because I think that there's an assumption there that the date has to be the birthday date. Not necessarily true if we're saying it's a surprise party. Assign an individual to thank you. Assign a person to the birthday owner, if you want to keep that term, birthday owner, so that's the person that kind of like make sure that owner isn't going to show up when when they're not supposed to, or take them to where they're supposed to be.
To protect the surprise.
Exactly, to protect the surprise. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
That's
Yvette.
good enough.
Great. I'd love to. For now, that's good. Ricardo,
yeah.
What do you think? What are the tasks that we might need to add or break down here?
I guess we could determine if it's like you said before, if it should be a Zoom call, or if it's or what technology is used, if it's virtual versus whether it's in person.
Decide whether decide between virtual and in person.
Sure.
Okay. And maybe I'll already ask you, Ricardo. You are person 2, so you are pink. Which of these tasks would you like to take on?
I'll make a cake.
You'll make a cake. Wonderful.
Of course, if it's
Great.
virtual, I'll be the only one eating it.
Okay. Well, see, there's a lot of dependency here.
We could also
What else would you like to take on?
delivery of that cake. If we are to do this virtually, that's that could be done as well.
Okay. Deliver cake if doing it virtual. All right, maybe we stop there for now. Obviously, this is completely not the same as if we were to actually do this in real life. Daniela, what about you? What are your thoughts? What tasks would you like to take on? I can color them in yellow. I can also add more tasks if you'd like.
I'd like to figure out how to surprise the birthday owner, but I do think we need to break that down further. So figuring out is not very action oriented. So I'd like to take over this part, but maybe break it down more. Identify the list of, for example, identify the list of friends that need to be invited for, that are friends of this person, of the birthday person, and then send them the location. So organize the friends, send them the location where to go to, make sure that the birthday person is free that evening. So it's quite a few tasks.
Yeah. Location. So you'll take care of all of this. Back to you, Yvette. Are you good to take on all of the other tasks, or would you like some of the other team members to take on the other tasks as well?
Sorry, I was talking and I was muted. So I would change to find the date to a team. No, right above. It's above. We have to find the date above, right?
Finishing Daniela's point.
Right. So I was just simply saying that I think needs to be a 3-person. One of the tasks that needs to be done on the 30-minute call, right? As a team, because everyone has to be aligned. So we just need to say as a team. Then invite friends is the same thing as create. Well, maybe not. It could be a separate task. So I can do the invite friends, no problem. Remind everyone to take the COVID test. Here, I would say send a home kit / and so, eliminate the need for them to go to the pharmacy. So I would, so I would do that if I'm doing the invite, because then I would put it as part of the invite. Send them the home COVID test. Yep.
Okay.
So I'll do the invite, and yeah, that's good enough.
Great. Yes, I think this gets the point across.
Yep.
And let's say that this was during the 30 minutes that you had the chance to meet on day 1. Maybe you can decide the date together right now. Let's say it's happening on January 31st. That decision has been made. Great. Okay. We can already move this task to done. Obviously, this is a bit of a fake situation, so we're making some things happen here artificially. I'm going to move on to the next slide right now. And of course, this is now day 2. And we have a fun little surprise here, which is that we've learned that the birthday owner has COVID. So you learned that the night of day 2 coming in to day 1, and now it's 9 a.m. and you're meeting together to have a discussion about what happens now, but also what tasks you were able to complete between day 1 and day 2. So why don't we start with you, Daniela? Were you able to get everything done that you had that was assigned to you?
Yes, I have done all of this, and now we need to decide. It's actually the decision about virtual and in person has just been taken by the fact that the birthday person has COVID. So we need to move to virtual and rearrange the friends list. So all the friends I've identified them. I've told them, please make sure that you are available there. So now we need to just set up the virtual space. So this
Okay.
eliminates decorating the apartment, for example, but maybe we make decorating the apartment becomes what theme are we going to give the virtual surprise party?
Decide theme for virtual surprise party. And you mentioned a task that you need to take on just now, Daniela, and I didn't get the chance to write it quickly enough.
Yes,
Would you mind
that's the
repeating it
task.
again?
Set up the theme, the background theme for the virtual party. That's the new task.
Yes. And also send out like the details for joining the WebEx or Zoom or whatever okay, send out Zoom for birthday. And are you doing both, Daniela? Theme and Zoom?
The theme I would like to assign maybe to Ricardo.
Okay, Ricardo. So it'd be great if you could take that on. Ricardo, are you willing to accept that challenge, Ricardo?
Absolutely. Why don't we put that in doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would agree.
Already brainstorming. I see. And maybe Daniela, you're also, multitasking during the 30-minute daily and already preparing the Zoom link to send out to everyone. How about you, Ricardo? What were you able to get done between day 1 and day 2?
I created a cake. I made a cake. Unfortunately, it looks like I'll have to make cupcakes so we can distribute to everyone. So I think it would be back in, but this should go into doing because I think that's everything, all the subtasks involved in making a cake, of purchasing flour and all that stuff is all involved. Obviously, my subtasks would be different, but that would be yes and do.
Yep. Fantastic. How about you, Yvette?
So now that it's going to be virtual because of the COVID, and if we hadn't already sent out invitations, right, then we need to remove the sending the test kits, right?
Yep. So this is kind of moot now.
Right. This becomes
Put
moot.
this through. Yep.
Right. So since she created the friends list and Daniela is sending the location, right? Then the invite friends task is off the board now. Again, moot.
Invite friend is off the board. Yep.
Yep. And then the assigned person to protect moves to doing, right? Because now the nuance has changed, but we still need to protect the birthday person.
Right.
Exactly.
All right.
And the rapid test doesn't have to happen.
Okay.
I'm great. I'm so happy now that it's moot. Virtual.
You have no more work left to do. Okay, I think we get the point. I think we get the point. Thank you all very much for participating in this. Maybe for some of you this was really obvious and we didn't need to do the demonstration, but I really didn't want to assume any baseline experience here. So thank you so much to our 3 volunteers, Yvette, Ricardo, and Daniela for participating in our little demonstration. So I'm gonna bring our slides back up to slideshow again. And given that we have 13 minutes left, I think we've made the call to just wrap up this discussion as a group, not in breakout rooms, but in the main room together around this question. I think we can also benefit from hearing from other people together in one stream of consciousness rather than separating the conversations into many different ones. That question being, where do you see the use of a Kanban board contributing to your team's task management process? And how, I think what I'd like to ask as well is also, what is still maybe unclear for you after the discussion that we just had? We covered a lot of ground today. You know what, instead of answering that verbally, I'm making a lot of pivots as I speak, just because of the change that we've just made. So let me make this call. I'd love for you to write your response to this question in the chat, but please do not press send yet. So we're going to use the chat as a way to get this conversation going. Please write into the chat your response to the question. Where do you see the use of Kanban boards contributing to your team's task management process? Type it in, but no need to press send yet. in a few moments, I will let you know when to press send, and then we'll see all the messages come in together, but not right now. I'll give it a little bit more time so that you can finish your thoughts. Okay, go ahead and press send. Let's see what messages come in. My favorite part, seeing the wall of text. All right. This is wonderful. Thank you all very much. I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen and actually just be here on WebEx with you. I invite you all to take a few moments to read through some of the messages that have been written down. And I'll be inviting some of you to come in to elaborate on your responses as well. So let's all take a moment to take a look at the messages here. Really cool messages here. So I'm seeing the mention of huddles quite a bit from both Christina and, excuse me, a little bit of allergies over here, from both Christina and Mercedes, I believe. So Christina Giordano, you wrote here that it reminds you of huddles, the huddles that you were having before COVID, tasks that are more detailed than the huddle. It can help getting things done in your group. Could you walk us through a little bit more what these huddles are and what connection you're seeing to the Kanban boards? Christina, please feel free to open your mic and just speak with the group.
Yes, so the others were introduced, I think it was probably 2019 as a part of the New Work initiative. I work in the UN library in Geneva, and we got a training. We started using them. Kanban makes me think of them because we also there we had a board with different people and different tasks that we had to do. They were more oriented to daily tasks, not to specific projects. And then we also once a week review. We had a huddle, I think, every day, but then once a week we reviewed the progress. So it was more similar, but it was not so much about detailing all this, breaking all the tasks down. But yeah, it seems a little bit a similar project to me. This to me seems more oriented to specific project that keeps them on track, where the other one is more having a look at the daily tasks and assign them to people.
Yeah, thank you for that, Christina. Richard asked a question in the chat that I'd like to highlight, which is what happens if a task is invalidated? The cake was done, but the birthday was moved to virtual. Is a new task created, or is the cake task moved back to doing? How do we account for lost work? I think that last question of how to account for lost work is a question that I don't think can be properly answered in the next 5 minutes. But for my take on this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Richard, is that for the purposes of just managing the tasks and the project and what needs to get done, it makes the most sense to remove that task from the board completely, because it's not helpful for us anymore. It's neither done nor doing nor to do. At the same time, maybe having made a cake was very helpful for the team to understand better their ability to make cakes and to be able to predict with more accuracy the next time that they need to make cakes, what resources need to go into doing that. So there might need to be a separate process for retaining the knowledge that's gained from work that ends up not being part of the final product. That would be how I would approach that process. Does that resonate with you, Richard, or would you approach it differently?
Oh, that matches what I had in mind. I think myself that you should use the Kanban board really what it's meant to do, which is managing the work, and not perhaps make it a solution for everything. So I assume that next to this, you need to have a register with the amount of work done for each task, perhaps.
And you've also helped to make one of the most important points of the session for me is that there are things that Kanban boards can be really great for, and there are things that they're not the best fit for. And I see that there might have been an opportunity to talk about this with a little bit more precision during the session. And I'm making a mental note to maybe integrate that in future versions of a conversation similar to this one. But let me just wrap up by building on your point here, Richard, that a team would need to have a conversation with each other and the team leaders specifically around what is the need here when it comes to task and project management, and to what extent is a Kanban board fit for purpose, and maybe a Kanban board is fit for only certain projects or initiatives that a team is working on. And that is really a decision that needs to be made in a really deliberate way. And maybe once a team starts trying out a Kanban board, they might realize that it's not working for them, or the way that they're using it isn't exactly perfect. So I want the message to be here that Kanban is a tool, much like a pencil or a mouse. Sometimes they are fit for purpose, sometimes they are not, and the team is really in the position to make the call around that. And the last point that I want to reinforce is at the end of the day, the conditions that were mentioned before around frequent communication, asking for help, getting feedback frequently, breaking down tasks into small units that are useful for the team. Thank you, Yvette, for helping me be more precise with that. Need to be there. These conditions need to be there in order for the tool to truly be helpful for the team themselves. I will pause there. I am writing my email now into the chat. I feel like there's so much more that we can talk about when it comes to this subject. So please know that it's not lost on me how incomplete this conversation feels. There's so much more that we can discuss. And if there is if there's an interest on your side to continue the discussion because you're trying to integrate more elements of Kanban boards and Agile into your way of working, I'm always open to having a conversation. There will be a presentation. Will there be a follow-on on the presentation or training to the session? That's a conversation that's not been had yet, but I suppose we can have one. But for now, I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for your active participation and being willing to come in and have a really fruitful conversation together with me and your other participants. I learned so much from you, and I hope that you got maybe at least something helpful that you can take forward and and use to take action in your day-to-day after this. So I'm going to hand the floor back to Namon now, who is going to officially wrap us up with some words on his side. So Namon, over to you.
All right. Well, that was a very exciting session. Thank you so much to all our speakers for joining us here today. And I really enjoyed the session, actually. And I'm sure that all of you all did as well. Many thanks to our wonderful production team behind the scenes, because couldn't have happened without them. And stay tuned for exciting events slated for this February. So we have another events coming up, and please mark your calendar for an event on work in a changing environment, culture, teams, and individual resources on 17th of February, and a special event on February 21st, marking the International Mother Language Day. Now, as we have already mentioned, on the screen will be a link to a resource guide to a few resources from our speakers, as well as from the UN Library and Archives. And we will also place this link in the chat, as we have already did. And tomorrow, the recording of the session will be available for our page. Also, you can subscribe to our Commons events and follow the library and archives on Facebook and Twitter. I'm sure you don't want to miss out on any of the upcoming events. So please sign up for our Commons newsletter in the link provided and stay up to date on upcoming Commons events. Well, as you know, we also love your feedback and ideas on how to get better. So please send us your feedback in the link provided. And if you prefer to speak to someone in person, please leave your email or contact at commons@un.org. Now we will end with a video showing the library doors closing, but we'll be back on 17th with another exciting event. So hope to see you there. Bye-bye for now and take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, and evening.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.